Buongiorno e benvenuti. Welcome to Art Yoga Pills with me, your host, Binny. In this space, we will connect and share together about creativity, inner child, and self-awareness. Siete pronti? Enjoy! Ciao a tutti, Kia ora and welcome to Art Yoga Pills. Today is the first time actually that I'm a guest with my guest. And so welcome to us and welcome to me and welcome to Diego. How are you, Diego, today?
Yeah, good, very good. Thank you. Thank you for coming over and starting this conversation. We'll see where it goes.
Exactly. So I guess that the first question that I would like to ask you today, for those who are listening, but also for me, as we know ourselves, but just a little bit, it can be very personal, but you can choose whatever direction you want to share with me about today. And the question is, who is Diego? You can go in any direction, personal, professional, or a little bit of also what we were sharing earlier before we started this.
Yeah, I will talk about Diego as a third person here. Diego is a guy that was born like 55 years ago in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and had a life which created a series of events like everybody else. It started molding my brain, Diego's brain in some ways. And a few years ago, not many, I really sort of rediscovered Diego. I started to rediscover Diego and trying to understand more who's Diego. And Diego, at the end, is a human being that is trying to live a life with as minimal suffering as possible, and also trying to create some sort of well-being around mental well-being around him, which is also starts from Diego's well-being. and who's talking is me, is the curator of Diego, the one that tried to make him or give him tools and looks at him and try to be compassionate about how Diego acts, what Diego does, and sometimes laugh at Diego and look what he's doing. So that's what Diego is in sort of a very ethereal way. But also, I believe that rediscovering life and at middle age, and especially, I sort of got to be a man, so there's I'm a man, middle-aged man, which has had a family, had a marriage, had children, had a job, had a mortgage, had two cars, a dog. Was good in photos, looked good in social media, and found that wasn't probably it.
Thank you. Thank you. I so resonate with a sort of like, let's call it identity crisis, that in a way, it's something so challenging yet so beautiful that we need to go through at times, and maybe not all of us, but when it happens, it gives us a way of reframing the perspective in which we are seeing ourselves as human being and what are we doing here. Mm-hmm. And I guess that the reason why this is happening today was mainly related to your crisis, I guess, and your discovering journey as a man, I would say. And a friend in common put us together, inspired my curiosity towards you for your project, because you also have a podcast, which is called What No One Told Us, with your friend Lloyd. And I am wondering how that became like part of your discovering journey, by sharing something that is so important for you and your friend to whoever wants to get a little bit more in touch and in contact with themselves. I guess starting from the male side, but not maybe just limited to that.
No, perfect. Yeah, what happened is when in one of the activities that I took, when at some point I quit working, I have like a couple of years that they were not planned like that, but they became a couple of years, or 2 or 3 years actually, without, I mean, a proper job, which means that I had to be somewhere at some time from this time to another one. So I was a little bit free. So one of the things that I've done is I enrolled myself in a ontological coaching course. So I've done 15 months of that, and I became an ontological coach, which whatever, I learned something new. And one day, I visited a friend in Tauranga. I got introduced to my friend Lloyd, and he also happened to be a coach, and we started talking. We started talking about what's to be a coach. What does it mean? What are we here for? And we started talking as well, like how can you coach if you're not coaching yourself? I know, or how you coach yourself to be a coach. So we got into that rabbit hole, and we started having like great conversations, and we decided to have one conversation a month just to check in how's life, and we started loving the conversations. And Lloyd is Kiwi, I'm from Argentina, so we have a different styles in a way, and we grew up in a different sort of environment, but we both landed on one thing, that is what's happening to us, on expression. Why are we suffering? What's the mental health issue? Why do we need to go to this transformation? What's happening? And we landed in a very common topic, that is vulnerability, and how life, or in this society, on how in this point in time in society, how available vulnerability is for men, or even if that word exists in men. I'm not generalizing, but and so we decided to have those conversations that we were having originally. We had started to record it and said, like, well, if anybody's interested of how to be vulnerable, well, there are conversations out there. And what it means is that in those conversations, we don't know where we're going, but we normally start with, how you doing? And so suddenly there's a feeling coming up, and that feeling comes into a story, and then we understand. Well, we talk about the stories, and the stories that we made of ourselves, and then we dig, and yeah, and that's probably an hour and a half of a conversation of two men. Sometimes there's almost tears, and sometimes it's joy, and sometimes whatever emotion comes up, and we are super enjoying it, and yeah, we are out there with those type of conversations, yeah, and yeah, we've been recording that for 3-4 months already, and there's no lack of content. It's just incredible.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful about that, because talking from this perspective of men, the way that is still like generalize the idea of men don't cry, and don't show vulnerability, don't talk about their problems. It's very interesting to me. Also, while you were talking, it comes to my awareness that today is actually Suicide Awareness Day.
Wow.
Which here in New Zealand, of course, is one of, I think, the highest number of the population that take their life is men. And so something like you're doing with your friend Lloyd is so important from my perspective, even as a woman, like seeing it from like being in this case, like really advantage on the fact that we are allowed more than men to share our feeling, to talk about, which doesn't diminish the fact that we are suffering less because we talk about, but definitely gives an advantage of sharing more often than men do. And so I wonder how you are perceiving the fact of sharing your story through those episodes, through those podcasts, so that they are accessible to other people. Not just like an opportunity for you to let those things out, but possibly also an inspiration for others to know that things are changing from the way we've been seeing and looking at them for a long, long time. And I wonder what, even, you might not truly be aware of who is listening on the other side, but how much is impacting you personally, sharing even just like that one-on-one conversation with your friend on a daily basis of, wow, I actually make it happen to let those things that were so personal to me coming out.
Yeah, it's a great question. I've been. It's amazing because I didn't know Lloyd for a long time at all, and we started sharing these conversations, and suddenly I found him as my brother because we are in this life together and helping each other and sharing from, there's I will do a little bit of my sort of idea of what happened a little bit with men, and I will use a little bit of prejudice and learn ideas, but most of the conversations that I had before, and I see a lot still, is that men getting together, and the first thing about getting together is about talking about the next trips, the achievements and goals, and this is what I'm doing. This is this is my golf game. This is my football game. This is everything is about some action and some sort of achievement. And then suddenly, if there is alcohol involved, there is a second stage where alcohol starts coming in, and then you start talking about more about the family, or if you have family, or romantic stuff, or more as a joke. And then there's a third when alcohol is already settled, and there is that thing about breaking a little bit and starting saying, "Oh, I really miss this," or I would like to do that, but I can't," or all these frustrations, right? And then after that session, that could be a night. The next day, everything's gone again. Everything disappears. And my question was at some point, because when I started the new journey, I stopped completely alcohol. So I was going to environments where there was alcohol, and I wasn't in alcohol. So I wasn't able to witness those processes. And I found that there's a real need of having those conversations, of having those hacks that they're only happening when there is alcohol or whatever you're influenced with. And I said, well, how can those connections and hacks be more possible in manhood? And because I really believe that, by the way, within all of that, a friend of mine took his life and drank himself to death, and it was just a beautiful soul struggling with not being able to express, and nobody could help him, I guess. So all of that created this sort of a question for myself: how can we create a space? How can we do it? And I still don't have the answer. I'm just doing it and see how far it. And sometimes I find myself that I'm not truly vulnerable, and I'm still, hiding things. But yeah, that's the exercise that we're trying to put out there and see what happens.
Yeah, and I found it really valuable as a experiment, just like even having the possibility nowadays to make everything accessible, but just because we're choosing to record it and see how that inspiration of two people that just talk can actually activate something for somebody else and go for it. You were mentioning about having lost a friend. I also did in the past year 3 dear friend.
Wow.
All of them men, And it's really surprising to me to, on this side, on this side where I'm standing as a woman, how well, I guess on one there is the duality, like the empowerment of doing an act that is permanent to alleviate the pain that you are feeling as a man, to just like stopping them permanently. But on the other side, also the loss for those who stays, that maybe are questioning themselves because we were here and we didn't notice anything.
Yeah.
So how do we keep having those very challenging conversations as we are having right now, so that people can find ways, what for example worked for you, not necessarily thinking that we also might have suicidal thoughts. I mean, I had them. But how you as a man worked on yourself when you had like this sort of identity crisis of who is this person that is living this life exactly like everyone else, and I'm not anymore happy about it. What was for you the work in that way to spark your curiosity to learning and growing in a different way than what you were used to?
Yeah, I always said I feel in a way lucky because if I never had real like suicidal thoughts. I think I don't know. You trying to find explanations, but sometimes I'm hopeless. But I suffer a lot from when I was a kid on my own, and suffer severe asthma. I was on my own, not being able to sleep in my bed and trying to. But I always have like a little light that will take me to the next day, and then. So I always have like a little light on, even when it was very dark. And so I cannot talk from from a societal thoughts point of view, but what I've, even though I said I'd never had thoughts like that, I was killing myself in different ways. So I was killing myself on having very self-destructive habits and being extremely unhealthy and not bothering about, especially my body. I did not care about my body. And one day, and then also in terms of mental health, I was feeling that there wasn't depression, but there wasn't any joy, and the joy was also always artificial, like, or momentarily, and then it was a big peak of dopamine or alcohol generated by or a drug or a social moment that has to be done full, and then the drop, right? And then the daily work and going to work and being unhappy and eating and drinking and smoking and drinking, eating, smoking, and then waiting for the next peak when it's coming. So, and that wasn't sustainable. I think at some point my body said, "Come on, dear, that's it." And then I had the choice. Instead of, well, a bit of drama, I added a little bit of drama to my thought. It was still like, well, you wanna end up in hospital, and then you wanna carry a problem to your kids or to whoever cares about you, or you're gonna take some responsibility. And so I've chosen to take responsibility, but taking responsibility said, how do you take responsibility? Because I found that taking responsibility was a daunting thing. I had to break with a lot of things, and very, very painful things. One was ending my marriage, and I didn't know how to do it, and I think nobody knows, but so I went and asked for help. This is what's happening to me. How is there any way I can do that? And then I got help, and then I found a way to do that. And I believe I had like a very peaceful and friendly way of doing that, and honoring as well what 24 years of marriage. That was a big thing for me. But then also it's taking responsibility. Okay, my habits. How can I change my habits? So I asked for help again. I went to a different type of source to get help on. And then slowly I started to see a little bit of another side of life, which is life, which is real life, which is a life where you can actually enjoy every day, at every time, at any time. And that was very exciting. And that created a lot of curiosity on me. I said, like, imagine I can try to be probably not happy, but at peace most of the time. And then I started going through that channel, and it got me into meditation. It got me into doing like things that I never thought I could do, like vipassana retreats. Like I've done 2 of them, which was fascinating. I started having daily practices, just to understand that this is not a one-off thing. It's just an everyday thing. But also, I found that damaging my body was a daily thing, and it was as difficult as the daily practices, or even more, because you don't feel well, and you, so yeah. So I think I don't know if I answered, but it was a bit of a process, but also a choice, and a choice that came from being uncomfortable, and having that thing about who do I really am, and why am I doing all of this? Who am I trying to prove that I'm worth it, not worth it, or whatever? There's no one. Just take responsibility, and do it for yourself, and be a better person. Because one of the most sorry, I just keep going,
Of
because
course.
one of the most amazing realizations was that in one of the practices, for some reason, I got in touch with my little me, or little Diego, and I remember, I don't know if it was like a dream or something, but I remember like my little me looking at big Diego, saying, "Is that all? Is that what I became? Is that all my life? My little me with all this blank canvas ended up on this guy, like at the pub, drinking non-stop, and talking rubbish, and gossiping, and being ugly, and not being able to sleep, and waking up in the morning with a horrible headache, and then getting to unhealthy food just to relieve the headache, and then being overweight, and then not being able to move much. It was a horrible cycle, and I could get in touch with that view of that little me saying, "Is that all?" So and I always liked saying that from them on, when I decided to do that, I have only one boss in my life, which is my little me, which is actually the one talking about Diego.
Thank you. No, perfect. There is no right answer.
No,
no
I
wrong
know.
answer.
But also, what I'm saying, this is not the truth. This is what I like to do, what I created for myself, and to help Diego, live life with closer to peace of mind, than to be faking it all the time, or being inauthentic, or not finding myself, and pretending to be something that I'm not.
I think that most of the things that we are faced with as human beings is that idea and concept of fitting in, and that I think is the first thing that shape us in the way that we kind of perceive the world, that want us to be in a certain way, and we are trying to blend with that idea. So when we become aware of things of ourselves that we are not really happy with, and as you said, like starting to notice all these little things, then it becomes truly a choice. But with the choice and the responsibility is also the commitment that we have with ourselves, which is a lifelong process, a work in progress for life that we cannot stop doing, because otherwise it's not sustainable. There will be no growth anymore. And I guess it's also part, for me at least, like having curiosity. And as you also share a couple of times, like that, not just for men in general, but I guess from my perspective, once again, that idea of asking for support is really important.
Yeah.
Was it easy for you to ask for that?
No, I was always looking for something. It's interesting because most of my life I found I believe that there was a piece of information that I was missing. That there were some people that were smart, that they were like they got it, they know something that I don't know, and I was always trying to get somewhere, to try to find some piece of information, adding stuff, which what it created is more complexity in my brain. Also, I was educated that the more you use your brain, the more successful you're going to be, which I found it at the end like a little trap, because everything that I was looking for was in the intellectually. And then when I started this work and this new path, I just got that for me the brain was actually the obstacle. So what I started working on unlearning a lot of things, which is a very commonly used word about unlearning, but basically start looking at what are those barriers, where are they coming from, and also start to get more in contact with my body and with my little Diego, which is a little bit of, which you can call it your soul, or you can call it your high self, or whatever you call it, which is the observer, or the observer of the human. And when I started to create those connections, I found that yes, I was going to a place where that was not going to lead me to any solution. I was actually getting into a rabbit hole, and I found that I started to find more peace inside, and with less and less information and less information, and doing less and having less and pursuing less. And suddenly I tried to get into as minimal as I can. And then I found that in that place there was absolutely nothing, which I could actually start from nothing to everything that I wanted. Everything that I wanted to do, I could do it from nothing. And that exercise of coming to nothing most of the time, I found it on meditation. And then another big course that I've done that I haven't mentioned, but I could mention it later. And that exercise of going to nothing, as much as I can, and start again, that was so satisfying and so enlightening that I loved it and I adopted it. So I stopped looking, I stopped searching, and then I found it, or I found it. But finding it means not that you have a solution; is that you now need to work. That's why I have it.
Nada.
So yeah, and going to nothing, and then see what's happening there. It was a great way for me.
What I really like also is like the fact that when we feel that we don't have answer, although there are questions, there is a little bit of that of finding new ways, getting connected with so many things that inspire us, and just keep on pursuing, always with the idea of achievement. But I feel it's also a great tool in a way, even if it pushes us to keep on going towards a direction that we can say it's wrong, because as you say, it's keeping us back into our mind, because we are keep on observing and absorbing information constantly. But at the same time, it starts to give us like idea of what tools are working for us, because also we are all different. So what works for you might not work for me, but might inspire somebody else, and so it creates like that sort of ripple effect. I also been to Vipassana twice, and it's been a really nice journey of observation and start again, which we constantly are doing. But it might not work for many. It's just like also understanding which are the things that are working for me, and even the things that are working for me, they might not be necessarily the same every day. And so having this source of inner bucket resources where we just put there all the things that we like are becoming in a certain ways like all the time something that we can take out of that hat and bringing it forward for ourselves to work on it. Sometimes it could be going out with friends and just talk with them. Some other time it could be being in nature. Some other time would be sit and do nothing and just observe and practicing meditation. For other people it could be cooking, running, painting, and so on. And so there are so many options that are working for us. And I think that with this, probably I will just start to see how we can move, as this is like about well-being, but also creativity. I think I would like to bring forward another aspect, if you would like.
Yes, there's one more thing that inspired me of what you were saying. There's a word that is a very common word that I would like to bring to the conversation, that is choice, and real choice. So I found myself that now I have a real choice. Before, I did not have many choices. I was doing what it was presented to me and what I felt it was available. But I didn't know that many things that are now available to me, that they were possible. Because I was like very limited in choice and self-restricted, all right? Or restricted by whatever my brain was restricted. Or looking good or not looking good, or I cannot do that, or I'm not good at this, or I'm good at that, and all reinforced by someone else or my own brain, which I don't know, it has no base. It's just self-inflicted limitations and choice. When you start choosing, but choosing from within, then there's nothing goes wrong. There's no wrong or right. It's just your choice. It can't be questioned. And that's magical. Obviously, I'm talking from a context of having the privilege of eating, shelter, and having the time to do that, all right? There's some conditions for humans that have no. There's always choice, but less opportunities to have that. So I would like to say that because
Yeah, and I guess like continuing on the aspect of the choice, but also considering like the privilege that we have, the place where we are standing today is that concept that you bring forward of the self-limitation. How many times, even me, if I'm thinking about myself, I've said, I don't have time. That's also my own choice. I choose to not have time because if I actually check with myself truly, like going a little bit deeper, it's my choice to choose how I want to invest my own time. And that self-limiting belief that we have installed in our mind of, in this case, not having time, it could be applied to any other thing. So when we actually look within, there is always a choice within the choice. And so how we can making it accessible for us to take that pause and actually understanding, is this my choice or is a self-limiting choice that I'm projecting in the way that I want to function and move in the world?
Yeah, and one of the things that happened is that when I went back to my little me, I found that the origin of Diego was very little Diego with no many conditions that wanted to be very self-expressed, and along the little his early years, that self-expression was cut by many conditions that happened in my life, which are not even to make a movie like normal, like normal, but the dynamics of my family may or created in Diego that limitation. So the self-expression got very, very limited, and Diego as a child could not express himself, could not participate in social things. He was always very very shy, very self-aware, and very limiting, and he has chose to have that role, which I discovered not long ago. So everything that I put out there, that everything that I was going to do will have to contain self-expression. And so I like music, I like theater, I like even the talking, and I like being out there, but not as a ego thing, is as a community. Like, so I started to think about community, and I started to think about even where I come from. Like, I come from Argentina, and for a long time I wasn't even talking about that. I wasn't even sharing where I come from, what's happening there. So that opened up a lot of other possibilities. So yeah, there were little other projects that came out with that. Yeah, so there was a group of friends that were musicians, and they all having, their jobs, and were not practicing, they were not doing anything, and suddenly I discovered that I like creating spaces for things to happen. Like, the first thing was a party that I created in 2021. I think it's called South America Celebrates Aotearoa, which I could actually portray a bit of the culture from South America. Then I also created, it was satisfying my desire to create spaces for people to enjoy things, but also for the first time, I fundraised. I was worried about paying my mortgage, but I said to myself, I never fundraised, I never gave away anything. So I created that event. I helped as well with the coach, because I was doing some courses about that, and I fundraised for mental health, and at that time was Mental Health Foundation that came out, and then I said, well, I can do events. So I got my friends and said, why don't we create a band and we play Argentinian rock, if you like, it's what you like. And we started that project, and straight away, 100 people watching that band or more. And I said, how did that happen? And it was like, in my point of view, there was people already and they needed a band. So it was effortless. And to see all my friends playing when that wasn't possible, it created a lot of joy. And then from them on, I said, well, there will be other people, there will be other things that are waiting to happen, and somebody has to activate them or trigger something. So yeah, so I'm been in that sort of area for 2-3 years already. So now I'm also with a group of amazing women. We are producing an Argentinian play that it's gonna be on next year, so we are rehearsing. Again, there's actors out there that were not acting, now they are acting. And yes, is financially viable? I don't know. That's not the point. The point is to create life, to create things where there wasn't nothing, or things that are happening when, for people that were not, that did not have the space or couldn't find the space. The same way somebody gave my space or created the space for me to change or to transform or to find another ways of doing things. So then life starts, generating new things, and then it's unstoppable. And that's joy, and that's life. More than an award, more than, oh, you're looking good, or you I don't know. I don't want to give an example because I can get into trouble. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, because to me, at least, like the way that I'm seeing myself, noticing myself in the same space where the more I befriend myself, even if it's still like a work in progress and there will be challenges and still I will face myself with things that I need to work on to grow. But the more I befriend myself, the more I sort of open my heart and mind and soul to all the possibilities that, especially in New Zealand, at least this is where we live, and this is where I'm seeing things happening.
Which is amazing.
Quite like in fast speed of creating this sort of community. And especially for us that we don't belong to this country, going back to the root of where we come from, even if we are standing on another soil, on another land, on other possibility, another culture, I feel is very empowering. We don't have much that as an Italian community, also because like compared to, let's say, South America, it's way larger, the possibility of gather together, because it doesn't just involve like Argentina, it can involve many other countries, plus of course Spain. And then people like me, they are just like really curious about Spanish as a language to learn. And so it gets like piece by piece, like a full collective. And just like to give the name, of the things that you mentioned. So we have Bardo.
So the band is called Bardo, and actually there's a show on the 18th of October in Ponsonby Social Club. The theater play is called Eso que no decimos. Is again, it's some topic about what we said and we don't say, but this is this what we don't say. It's the title of the play in English, and yeah, that those are the two things that I'm currently working on, and there are some other things in the background that I haven't sort of. They are in the early days, but there's always something happening, and there's always something that can be done. And once you are in community, the community actually you give and the community gives, and it's so rich. I will never be talking to you if we were not in community. I would never know about you. You will never know about me and many other people that we meet. The other thing, I was involved in the Buon factory and an amazing space as well, where a lot of things are happening. From also, there's a big portion of the Buon factory that are foreigners that bring a lot of skills and ideas and energy. That place, that's a world of possibilities as well, and many other places, but those are the ones I know. And so, and once you are in that sort of realm of things that can potentially happen, there is no limit.
Yeah, we are the one that put limit on ourselves, and especially with that idea of community, it doesn't take well, it might require a lot of effort, because it took you a long time to make it happen. Like if we are seeing it like from your journey on a personal level to where you are now, it took a long time. But at the same time, it might require just a little bit of curiosity about ourselves and see how new things or different things than the one that we are used to connect to might spark those doors to be open and for us to go through them and see who else is willing to experience the thing that we are experiencing, so that how possibly then community get created one by one with so many different ideas, so many different possibilities, something that bring us together, the reciprocity of giving and receiving equally. So there is so much that we can also get to know ourselves with through those reflection of other people, bringing their gift and our self bringing our own gift to them.
Yes, and sharing what I really like, asking people, do you have daily practice? What do you do? What do you do in the morning? What apart from probably brushing your teeth? Is there anything you do? And then you start finding that some people, there's a woman in Tauranga that has a challenge that she will start every single day in the ocean, every single day of the week, and then he brought a community. There's now a little group that does that, and wow, and then you start digging and being curious, and there is all sort of things, and people are amazing, and we all looking for, ways of having a nicer experience, because times are not very nice, and you can get caught into in a big trouble of opinions, big trouble of fight, big trouble of wars, ideology, religion, you name it. And I know about that. I had strong opinions about a few things, and now maybe not.
But even if we do have those strong opinions, how for ourselves, starting always with ourselves, how do we bring some flexibility and openness towards even those that might not think the way that we do, like to even just like respect that this is my opinion and that's your opinion, and we can still be friends. We don't need to go separate ways, so that there is still community with different point of view, with different little realities, with different, of course, like stories, background, cultural awareness from the place where we came from the place in which we are. So it's all like a journey of discovery, of seeing how we are merging and finding a balance and a little bit of harmony.
Yeah, and understanding why this community is doing this. Why this community? Ask, why are you doing this? What is this about? And then you learn, and then you. I remember the first year I embarked myself into a Te Reo Maori class, and I've done it for a year, and I was like, my mind like went crazy. I spent 23 years in Aotearoa, New Zealand. I will say Aotearoa, New Zealand, because I'm talking about Te Reo Maori, and I was sort of in a very sort of enclosed community or something. I did not have any awareness of how rich and how amazing and beautiful Maori culture is, and such an ignorant, and it's here. And since then I said, like, how many other things thousands and millions of other things are yet to be experienced and discovered, because I was very quick on judging and having opinions, but I have no idea where things come from and why people do these things, why they take their time on this, why they have this ritual, why they I have no idea. You can actually have an opinion on that unless, just
Yeah, it always go back a little bit to that curiosity, curiosity about ourselves and curiosity about the world that we see and the lens in which we see them, why we have those strong opinions, where do they come from. So keep on questioning ourselves in all the process of the things that we are doing without necessarily having the answer. We can leave some of the answer aside, like go back to nothing, as you were sharing earlier. But at the same time, it's a really wonderful possibility to see how curiosity can open to possibilities. And then it's our choice to choose where and how and when.
And if you choose something, just do it. Don't lose yourself on that, because otherwise you're a victim of that as well. And I find it that with polarization in the world, when you choose some place as opposed to the other, and you embark yourself on that, then suddenly you start losing yourself again into something that doesn't really belong to you. I'm not saying do not get involved in humanity stuff, but some things are crazy. You can't. I've decided that I'm not gonna lose my life on that. I feel that, and there's another thing that I always think to myself is that I say to myself is one of the most generous things that you can do to the world is to work on yourself. And at the very beginning, I thought it was a very selfish thought, and then when I dug deeper into that, is that when you work on yourself, you're actually liberating people around you from looking after you, from being a weight for someone else. Then also you have more autonomy. You can actually do things by yourself, and also you might inspire someone, or someone might inspire you, and you're open, and then suddenly you're creating another movement that doesn't look for enrollment, ideology, religion. It looks for life, and at some point that's gonna get big as well, or maybe not. And I find that it's a good cause to work on yourself more than sacrificing yourself for a cause that actually sometimes you don't even know what is it.
I recently, and when I mean recently, probably in the past years, replaced the word selfish with self-care. And probably now with one of the roles that you have, it might be even more familiar to you, that idea and concept that there is when you take the flight, when they do like the health and safety part, to remind yourself to put the mask first before to help somebody else. And that goes back to how do we take care of ourselves first, so that then everything becomes like almost a plus. So all the overflow, all the energy that I have left, I can gift them to the world around me. But it has to start by filling my own cup. Otherwise it can be sustainable to just like supporting you if I don't have the energy and the capacity to support myself first.
Thank you. That's the other pillar that I didn't mention, that is you get stronger. When you get stronger, you're actually able to help more than being a victim or something, or being angry and upset all the time.
Exactly.
Which is one of the things that are currently happening, and I see around, like the anger and the upset is a very common emotion these days, and it's valid. I'm not saying it's not valid, but is that a real choice?
Thank you. And I guess that arriving at this point in our conversation, before reaching the final question, I'm wondering if there is something else that you feel it could be valuable to share that we have not yet touched, or just like to reinforce something that we already mentioned in whatever way. You can also say, I think that we covered pretty much a lot, and maybe there's nothing else, but just like giving you the possibility, if you like, to add on to the sharing. And while you're thinking, I'm also gonna mention that what you mentioned. So Bardo, the Argentinian rock band, and Topo Production, which is the theater company, will both with the link of your podcast be available in the description of the episode, so that everyone can go and reach out for more inspiration. But in the meantime, I'll bring it back to you.
Yeah, no, just the only thing that I was gonna say is that everything that I said is not coming from a place of I got somewhere. I'm very grateful for everything that happened to me in my life, even when I was a little child and I couldn't be self-expressed, or when I found this thing, or my marriage, or my ex-wife, or my children, or everybody that is part of my life, because everything that needs to happen, and you can't change that. The only thing that you can actually look at is at right this moment, and when that awareness comes, and I'm very grateful that awareness came to me, made me understand that life happens right now, and everything that already happened, it doesn't exist anymore, and also had its moment, its time, its purpose, and everything that exists actually now, and I'm not talking from any place. It's just that I'm grateful for everything, and whatever is happening to you or to you, it is what needs to happen, and acceptance of that is when everything opens up. That's another big word, acceptance.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for us to accept.
That's another work in progress and lifelong journey for all of us, I guess. But it's beautiful. Acceptance, and I want to add attachment as well.
Yeah.
Attachment of any kind, not necessarily like attachment between between people, but also attachment of the idea that we have of ourselves, attachment of our own belief, and so on, with all the type of attachment, either if they are material or non-material.
True.
And that part of the acceptance.
And we don't want to let go.
Exactly. And arriving to this point, I think I'm gonna go for the last question, which I usually keep it as a secret. Exactly. So no one needs to prepare in advance, and you can also choose if to go for it fully or just like take partial the answer for us. But the final one is just like possibility for us to get some empowering messages from you, which always start with you. So it could be just like a reminder for yourself to yourself, as it could be something for me or for whoever is listening to this point in our conversation. And the idea is to share 3 empowering messages, no matter how small or big they are. For me, everything is valuable.
Okay.
But you can also choose just one. There are people that choose to share 1 rather than 3, and that is part of the experience.
Okay. The first one I'm going to choose is that as you brush your teeth, you have your cup of tea, if you can create 3 little activities, one that one for your soul, one for your brain, and one for your body, like a little exercise, a little breathing, or a little journaling, or whatever. That's what I do. But one of these every day, as you brush your teeth, as you have a shower, or just incorporate it. That's for me was a huge change in my life. The second thing that I will say, and something that I'm using very, very often now, is the little sentence that it says, be brave enough to suck at something new. And since then, I just have so much joy at sucking at something new. There is actually not sucking at something new. There is no judgment on when you're doing something new. You're doing it, and that's enough. Otherwise, you'll never do anything because you want to be already up there. And no, there is a first moment where you don't know much what you're doing. That was actually, and at the end of the day, that opened up so many new possibilities for my life. And the third one, I will say, life, this little experience that we have in this body for whatever time it lasts, it could be real magical. It could be magical every single day, and the power is in us, and we have the power to transform every moment at any time, and we know that, but it's scary.
Thank you. That's the best part for me, because I'm the first one to get those reminders, to get those insights. So I'm really grateful to receive them, and knowing that not just for me, but for whoever is listening, but even for yourself.
No, that's
it's
for myself.
part of
I don't do that every day.
the reminder anyway of how we can get inspired by simple acts, simple choices, simple way of seeing ourselves with new eyes every day, and be curious about the experience. So thank you so much for that, and thank you for the conversation.
No, thanks a lot, and thank you for everything that you do. I know you do a lot of things for the communities, and also you work a lot on yourself as well. So hats off for everything that you're doing, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for being my guest, and thank you for everyone else who has been listening to us so far. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Grazie per averci fatto compagnia. We hope you enjoyed your time with us. If you wish to stay updated and connected, visit us on our social media channels and our website www.artyoga.co. Ci sentiamo presto. Ciao!